into the living room. It's called the Washington Parlor because we have this beautiful portrait of George Washington. And we're in a wonderfully historic building, mansion actually, that is haunted. So anything could happen tonight. I'm Charlene. I'm the publicity and marketing person at BRE Presents, and we're so happy that you're all here for our VIP party. This is a very, very special event for us because, you know, it's 50 years ago today that the Beatles actually played on the Ed Sullivan Show. So there's so many things happening this weekend with the Beatles. There's Beatle Fest in New York that's been running since Friday, and we have the Fab Four tonight. We booked them purposefully just for this show for tonight because of the date. So we're so happy that they're here. That's cool. And I'd like to introduce you to Mr. George Manney, who's a dear friend of mine. We've known each other for about 35 years, maybe. I used to work at Capitol Records. Yeah. And just a few years ago. And George is, well, let's see, George is a composer, a musician, an author, an arranger, a videographer, a historian. George has worked with the Rock Hall in Cleveland, and you are also the historian for the Philadelphia Music Alliance. Is that what it is?
They do the Walk of Fame.
The Walk of Fame also.
On the Avenue of the Arts.
Right. And George has a huge collection of memorabilia, not just Beatles memorabilia, but memorabilia from many, many, many other artists, from the Orlons on up to the Fab Four now. Right. So George has a presentation for you, and feel free to ask him questions. Just pop in there if you have any questions for George. He has some Beatles tidbits and stories to tell, his own personal experiences with the Beatles and Beatles management with his band. So take it away, George.
Hey, George.
Welcome.
Sorry, that was so long.
I guess most of you already saw the Beatles when they actually came out in '64. So, well, tonight we're going to be entertained by the Fab Four, and that's going to be pretty cool. And I don't know how many people actually saw the band live.
Fab Four?
No, I mean the actual Beatles.
Separately.
Rob and I, this gentleman right there, was his hand here. We used to play in a band together in high school, and he and I saw the last tour in '66 at JFK.
Yeah, it was 3 weeks before they stopped.
Right.
Wow.
And then,
Yeah, you know.
then a couple years after that, we continued to play in a band, and we were writing material, and I had a pen pal, like Rob had a pen pal too, and we would converse with these people over in England, and the girl I had sent me the address for Apple, because Apple was looking for bands. So we had to send our demo to Paul McCartney and then Peter Asher and stuff like that. I'll get into that a little bit later because I'll show you a letter and stuff like that, things like that. But it was pretty amazing. So I started collecting things, and I think it was because of my mother. My mother was a musician. My parents both were musicians, and my mother saved everything, and I wound up saving everything too. So I have a whole load of stuff that's like junk, I guess, for most people, but for me it's part of my life. So it's like, and it's kind of nice to share it with a lot of people. And there's like stories with everything that you save. And there's another interesting thing. There's a brand new book that just came out, and it's about Philadelphia. It's called the Philly Pop, Rock, and Rhythm and Blues. It's the first book that actually covers Philadelphia music from the 50s through the 80s. I mean, oh, you have it? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Okay. So the cool thing in here is they actually talk about a little bit about the whole thing with Philadelphia and the Beatles, how like Dick Clark and a lot of these people said they're not going to last and just pass on them because Swan had She Loves You. So there's a lot of history there, and then Cameo passed on them, so it was like kind of a small. They just didn't look big, and they didn't look at the big picture, and there were a lot of things they just cut themselves off at, and they just concentrated on mostly local artists and trying to make them into pop stars, you know. And the things were changing so rapidly after Kennedy died and the Beatles came here. It was a different thing for Americans. So I think people were looking for different things, and the Beatles threw American music back at them in a different way. And they interpreted it completely different. But their roots are in America. So anyway, I'll start off with this thing here, and I'll try, if you need the volume, I'll just let me know. And I'll start off with there's a little clip with me. I was at when they were trying to sell or give away the original Magical Mystery Tour bus, and they were doing it at all the Hard Rock cafes. Anybody go when they were doing that? Okay. So anyway, I went there and filmed it when it was like I'm a loony like that. So I'll just start off with that, and then I'm gonna start off with a clip that I work with another friend of mine who does a documentary work, Mike Fraticelli, and he has been collecting, going down to Washington D.C. and bringing back some archives of me from the National Archives. So I have some of the clips from the National Archives, and some of them are actually kind of funny because they kind of make light of the band. So you'll see the significance and the history of it. So it's kind of funny, pretty funny and poignant at times. So let me. Hopefully I can start this thing because I'm not. Let's see.
Set,
I think this is plugged.
yeah. There you go.
Here you go.
Thank you very much, and good evening.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have told you. That's. I have the audio from Convention Hall in Philadelphia.
Wow.
It's the whole set. So that's what that is. That's the after they did the second song, that's McCartney finally talking to the, because they didn't really speak to anybody. I remember when they came on, it was like bombs going off because like it was black, but then there was all these flash cubes just going off with all these little cameras. But it was like thousands of them. These girls were going totally insane. My ears were like, I was deaf for like 5 days after that. But it was just like, I thought it was in a war zone. And then they're up there and they're trying to tune up and they're trying to get the mics together. It's all this stuff. So I have the audio from that, but I also have 2 video clips from Convention Hall. But it's a bootleg, so it's not the best thing. But they actually have the whole thing pristine from the beginning, them arriving, playing, and leaving. It's all documented, but they don't release it. So I don't know why that is either. But anyway, this is this is audio from that. Then it'll go into the little American presentation of the Beatles coming to America.
Well, thank you. We'd like to carry on with a song which we recorded